guys, quick review of the Tailfin System. I bought the AeroPack, the super light pannier bags, and the top tube flip bag. Used them for about half a year, I think, at this point, and I use these mostly for commuting. I know a lot of people use these for bikepacking, and so will I, but right now my main use case is a little different. I used to have a fast e-bike, but that got stolen, and I bought into the Tailfin System because my road bike was suddenly my only way to get to work by bike, and I do carry a fair amount of stuff to and from work, a lot of photo and video gear, and so it was important to me to have a system that was sturdy and able to handle a good amount of weight. My road bike has a carbon frame with no attachment points whatsoever for a rear rack, so there weren't all that many options. Most people, I think, are gonna have some sticker shock looking at the Tailfin lineup. I know I did. You can buy a perfectly fine secondhand road bike for the price of just the AeroPack and the pannier bags. They're definitely not cheap. But of course, if you already have a nice bike and you want to get more use out of it, maybe turn it into a commuter bike, a bikepacking bike, I suppose there's a case to be made for the Tailfin System as a sensible investment, provided, of course, it's a quality product. And there is no denying that Tailfin does make a fine first impression. The one thing that absolutely sells these, in my opinion, is the rock solid way that this mounts to your frame. I have the system with the through axle, which means that the axle that kept my back wheel in place is replaced with a custom Tailfin axle that sticks out a little at the sides, and the AeroPack clips onto it at the sides, and then with a clamp system onto the seat post. I cannot stress enough how sturdy this is, especially for something that is very easily removed. As you can see, attaching and detaching takes very little time. So, expensive, sturdy, and conveniently fast. That's the 5-word version of the review if you're in a hurry. But there are a couple more experiences and tips I would like to share with you if you're thinking about buying into this system. If you want to attach Tailfin's panniers, you'll first have to choose between either the rear rack or the AeroPack. It's basically the same system, built to let you attach panniers to the side, but with the AeroPack, you always have that roll top bag on the top. It's part of the system. With the rack, you can take that bag off or just not buy it if you just want the side bags. So, which one's best? My logic in buying the AeroPack was that if you're going to be using a top bag anyway, it's lighter and more convenient to just have it be part of the system and not something that you add extra. So I figured I'd just always keep that on there and store some basic kit in there like a rain jacket and a spare tube. The reality for me, though, is that the top bag is actually, weirdly perhaps, the part of the Tailfin system that I use the least. Like everything Tailfin makes, it's cleverly designed, but the design is geared more towards bikepacking and specifically putting a lot of compressible stuff like clothes, sleeping bags, maybe a tent, and then using these straps to cinch everything down. When traveling, I think that is a good system. For shorter trips or for commuting, I find I use it less because it's not as convenient as a top tube or frame bag for smaller items, and a bit of an awkward shape for bigger things like laptops or camera gear. On the bright side, it does double as a mud guard even when empty, so I don't really mind it being there. It's not that big of a weight penalty anyway. You can get the racks and the AeroPacks in either an alloy or a carbon version. That last one costs about €100 more for a 130 gram weight savings. Probably worth it for the ultralight crowd, but if you've never really given much thought to the weight of your gear, my guess is that you're easily going to find cheaper ways to shave off that weight elsewhere. Oh, if you plan on buying an AeroPack, I would advise getting the extender option that moves the pack back 5 centimeters, 2 inches, which makes it easier to fill without your saddle getting in the way. The pannier bags are the best place to store heavier items because they're more convenient and because that's going to give you a lower center of gravity, which is safer. Tailfin sells 2 types of panniers, one that's built as super light and the other that is ultra durable. They do like their superlatives. I went for the lighter version. They're the same size and they've held up great so far. If I have any issues down the line, I'll post them in the comments. I generally don't have very strong opinions on panniers, but they do have to be waterproof, they have to be durable, because I've had some systems break down after a couple of years, and they do need to have a good, solid mounting mechanism. And that last one, like I said, is definitely Tailfin's forte. This is what you pay extra for, and it is indeed very, very solid. The lever that you push down is fairly sharp, and I understand why, because there's not a ton of space to work with here, but I do wonder if a slightly wider lever wouldn't have been more comfortable, especially down the road when this whole mechanism gets a bit worn and maybe requires a bit more force to close. Shoulder straps are included with the bag. I had originally put these away thinking I don't need them, but I ended up using them because the bags are actually fairly inconvenient to carry off the bike because they don't have any handles, and the clamps that attach to the rack are fairly sharp, so you quickly learn that it's best to keep those on the outside. Okay, last piece of Tailfin kit that I got is the top tube flip bag. Comes with both straps and screws if you happen to have mounting points on your top tube, which I sadly don't. I bought the top tube last a couple of months ago. Haven't used it a ton, but it's been pretty convenient so far. Opening and closing is very fast and secure. There's not a ton of space, this being the small 1.1 liter version, but it is enough for a spare tube, some tools, a small pump, and the battery of my silver-free bike lamp. There's also a bigger 1.5 liter version if you need more space. The lamp battery was my main reason to get it, and so it was a relief for me that the cable port was big enough, because that was a problem with some other brands. So pretty happy so far. It's a fairly simple product, but it is well made. Wrapping up, the $1,000,000 question, is this all worth it? And it might sound strange given that I've just spent half a review gushing about Tailfin's products, but my advice for most people looking into this system is to look elsewhere first and to check whether your bike has the necessary mounting points for something like an Ortlieb quick rack, because that does 80% of what Tailfin does at about half the price or even less if you go with budget panniers. Both for commuting and bikepacking, I think that is the sensible bang for your buck option for most people. However, if your bike doesn't have any mounting points, if it's a carbon frame that you really don't want to clamp anything onto, or if getting a super light system is very important to you, or you want to be able to take it off super quickly, if Tailfin turns out to be the only game in town for you, then I have great news, because it's a great game. And I really do admire the engineering approach here, with plenty of fresh ideas, the way everything's custom made to work together, the attention to detail. The sticker shock is real, but I'm glad that these products exist, and I would buy them again. Hope that helps. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.